Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're so excited to see everyone here today. Um, I am Leanna Petrone, and I'm the Executive Director of LatinoBuilt. And today we are bringing you estimating and bidding basics. A few housekeeping things as we get started. Um, if you would like to get CCB, continuing education credit for this training, please private message me or Dulce, and we will get that certificate out to you so you can get those credits afterwards. This presentation is being recorded and it will be posted on our new YouTube channel following this presentation in a couple of days. Please remain muted throughout the duration of the presentation until we specify that we have a period for comments or questions during that. If you do have questions, if you need to write it down so you don't forget it, please put it into the chat and we can also, we'll be monitoring it, we can add it into our presentation. And that should be it. And from me, let's see here. We have a little bit of a intro or a agenda of what we're going to be covering today. Introductions, all the components that it takes to put an estimate together, how to create an estimate that will generate your company profit, bid notices, work to find notices, bid documents, so what to review before putting together your bid packages, how to make sure to include the correct scopes, bid checklist, and bid formatting examples and clarifications and exclusions. And believe me, there'll be lots of opportunity to also ask questions here. And if there's a lot of information, if you don't feel like you got it all on this training, once again, we will have recorded to go back and view it again and again, as well as Dulce and myself to help support you through any additional questions outside of this training. And without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce David Molina from Molina's Construction Company and a LatinoBuilt wonderful board of directors member, our vice president, David.
Hey, everyone, can everybody hear me? Yeah? Wonderful. So my name is Dave Molina. I'm the president owner of Molina's Construction Company. I am currently your LatinoBuilt vice president. So I do work up there with the executive board and I've been on it for a few months and doing pretty good work there. And then I also serve on the American Society of Professional Estimators Board of Directors, a local chapter. American Society of Professional Estimators is acronym, you may know it by ASPE, really about the science and art of putting a bid together. And then prior to doing Molina's full-time for the last couple of years, I was running another startup called Operation Code, operationcode.org, focused on helping veterans transition to careers in tech, and ran that startup for about 4 years. If you Google Operation Code, you can find it. So, and I spent about 12 years in the Army, both in the reserves and mobilized on active duty. So that being said, I want to preface that saying I am not a subject matter expert per se in estimating. I will only show you and tell you what I do know from now. And we're going to do kind of a live one. Is that what we want to do, Dulce? You want to do a live one? Okay. So to the question of bidding, I'm going to make the assumption that everybody here has, so we're going to kind of high level. I'll kind of explain our process for Molina's, and this will be internal. So let me see if I can share my screen here. I guess it's this one. All right. All right, can you guys see that? All right, let's go to, this is my browser right here, right? All right, so I'm already in Firefox. Let's go to, I'm gonna go to my Asana. All right, everybody here is in contracting. We're identified an opportunity. Hey, Dulce, how much time do I got? I forgot we didn't talk about that.
About 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay, deja poner el teléfono. 20 minutes. All right, so we're gonna go I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna stop, guys, at 15 minutes and 50 seconds, and then I'm gonna open up the rest for questions. Okay. Feel free if you want to entertain questions, throw it in the chat. Dulce, go ahead and pose it as I'm doing it. But if you guys can wait, we'll knock it out at the 15-minute mark, and you guys can ask questions then. Okay. All right. So everybody in construction, pretty much all of us, use different software and different ways for us to bid. Yeah. For Molina's, we started with the spreadsheet. Before that, we started in my head. And before that, it was on my phone, contacts, and there's different ways of doing it, right? Our latest and greatest kind of evolution for Molina's is using a software. It's a free software called Asana. It's this one right here. Don't ask me for a referral code because that doesn't exist for us right now. So just go to Asana. You can check it out. It's a free service. We broke it up, our little teams here, by assets, commercial, equipment, federal, growth, machine parts, operations, and scent archives. Let's just say we work on the commercial and federal side. Let's say we're going to start from scratch, and you did start one. You did start a new team, and let's just say we're going to call it, I don't know, for a lot of us, we're doing commercial, and we're going to do a commercial job. We're going to call it commercial. I'm going to call it commercial 1. Okay, that way I don't open up my commercial and you know, maybe share some stuff that we might be competing on. All right, so that's commercial. And you decided that we're going to bid on a job, and it's a commercial job for, I don't know, like, let's throw one in there that recently happened. Let's do we did one job. Let's say you have one for Brink, and Brink is doing a grading job. I'm going to give you an example. You're going to grade some, let's say the task is to grade 55 cubic yards, which is what we did. The company's name was Brink. It was a grading job. And so we'll break it up like that. Okay. We're going to create the project. Once you create the project, what we did in our Asana, you can actually pay for the software, Procore, Building Connect, different ways of bidding, project management, some spreadsheet. We broke ours up by to do, in progress, and complete, if you guys can see that, right? So the first thing we want to do for us, we'll go in here, we'll create a task. We're going to call it, we're going to do it and call it estimate takeoff. Let's say we've already been to the walkthrough and we've already done the walkthrough. So we're going to move this here to in progress because we're going to start this estimate. And I'm going to tag myself since I'm the senior, the lead estimator on it. And then a description. Here, I'm going to open up the edit project details and I'm going to lay out. It's going to be grade 55 cubic yards of dirt, erosion control. That's just an example. I'm going to do 2 examples, all right? But that's one. Grading, 55 cubic yards, erosion control. The job site location, XYZ. The point of contact is Eduardo, okay, etc. All right, the due date for that, we're going to set the due date for tomorrow, the 10th. And at this point, I've created a sort of kind of a planning mode for me to figure out quickly, hey, I'm going to do this takeoff. So next thing I want to do is you want to open up, who's this? Salvador? Admit. All right, that was weird. All right. Gladys, who's, okay, admit. Hey, Deuce, I'm going to start accepting these people that come up on my screen. All right, we're going to open up a new spreadsheet. You can actually do different, I'm going to do it from scratch so you guys can see the sort of the methodology or the philosophy behind the takeoffs. So let's say the project is going to be grading and also hauling off material, and we're also going to seed the material. So in this case, you want to kind of break it up into 0, 1, 0, 1, and then this is going to be kind of like you call it, the federal government, we call it cleanse, but you can call it kind of different. So you want to do grading. You want to make you do something called hauling. So you're going to kind of keep track of your hauling, of your dirt that you're going to move out, and material. And then this applies if you knock down trees, if you do drywall, it's kind of the same concept, no? And 3, we're going to just call it seeding. Okay. So grading, you know, you're going to do your, and then there's different ways of doing this, but it's kind of like a quick way of doing it. Diane Zapata. All right. So grading, let's say you want to do the scope of work. I think I screwed this up. I should have done 1 grading. Well, I'll just leave it like that. Now let's say we're going to do the scope of work is going to be grade 55 or not 50. I'm going to screw this up. There's different. Let's do quantities here. Let's do type here. Let's do total here. So it's not like this, no? You want to do 55. You want to do cubic yards. You want to kind of keep this organized, and there's a reason for it. Let's move this a little further. Well, let's just do it like this. Total pricing. Okay, so you want to do price. Let's say the price to that you're going to take for the dirt to cost you the dirt to dispose of it is going to be $10. So there's another column here that I missed. So each, and it's $10. You still want to move 25. So you're going to move. It's going to cost you. What the hell did I do? Price or. All right, so here's where we're going to get interesting. So we're going to take the $10 times the 55 cubic yards you're going to move. Te va a costar. Here, I did this kind of wrong. So scope. So you're going to need a machine out there. You're going to need a mini. First, you're going to mobilize. So a lot of people do their jobs and like, you know what, I don't want to charge to mobilize to where I am, but you're going to have to. So you're going to do 1,500. You're going to mobilize once. Y te va a salir times 1,500. Something like that. You can do an overhead and profit, and you're like, you know what, I want to add my overhead and profit per line. So a lot of people don't charge overhead and profit, but let's say for the sake of us, we want to charge overhead and profit. Let's say your overhead and profit is 20%. So 10% your profit, 10% your overhead. So then you take that number, you want to times it by 0.20. You're going to make $300 on that deal. Then you add these two numbers together. You're going to charge $1,800 for that mobilization. Does that make sense? Demobilization, same thing. It's going to charge you the mini to move it out of there. You're going to do one. You can always take these right here and drag and drop. Y te va a ser igual. If you change this number, the formula will be the same. But let's say the demobilization charge is $2,000, right? For whatever reason, this $400 right here just added, right, by $100 because you move that quantity, or not the quantity, but the price. So this is going to be subtotal. And you got total. All right, overhead profit. Okay, something like that. All right, so what you're going to need for that job, you're going to need mob, demob. Okay. We also need to put erosion control, so you're going to need sill fence. So sill fence, you know, it's going to be 200 linear feet. So 200. Did this wrong. There's somewhere in here. I need type. You need to have this organized because some of these contracts will ask you. So this is going to be this is linear feet. And again, Afton have a different way of doing this. So your pricing on this, so I think I have this wrong. 200 linear feet each. And my pricing is going to be, let's say it's $10. I'll do it the other way. No modelos. $20. Okay, so linear feet. 200 linear feet, and we're doing that, and we're going to need one of those. Subtotal on this, you're looking at, let's say it's $15 to do this, plus your overhead, or $200, I should say. You're going to take this. Throwing me off. This is wrong here. Sill fence, 200 linear feet each. What is it? 1,500, 1,500, 1,000. So it kind of organizes wrong, guys. You got a mini excavator. You need a work truck. Some people are going to say, you know, you don't need a work truck. Oh, there's my example right there. Oh, I should have done it that way. Quantity, units, unit cost, total cost. That's a really good way. Okay, so I have 5 minutes and 16 seconds, not a lot of time. Let me fix this real quick. So quantity, unit cost, total cost. Okay, so quantity, mobilization is going to be 1. Unit is going to be 1500. So the unit cost of this is this times this is 1500. There you go. And then, so I'm going to delete this over here. I'm going to do overhead and profit down here. All right, as an example. So we got this, we got demobilization, we're going to mobilize once, 1500. So the unit cost, you can just drag and drop, guys, save yourself time. So that's what it is. Sill fence. Sill fence is 1 unit is every feet is 100. You drag that. So you need 100 feet, a linear feet. Y te va a salir $2,000 for the sill fence. So say you're charging $100 per foot. You got a mini, so you need 1 mini. The minis are charged per day. So let's just say you do unit quantity. Oh, I'm missing unit. Oh, that is actually unit cost. I got one. Running out of time here. This part right here, I forgot to add. Unit. Okay, so that's each linear feet. Vas a cobrar tanto. And your mini, let's say you only need it for 8 hours. So 8 hours says 1 lump sum. Necesitas un día. Y te van a cobrar these guys for the day. Let's say $600. Algo así. Okay. So this times this. Oops. Actually, let me just drag this one. All right, so $600. So let's just, I'm running out of time, but let me, gotta give an example. A lot of us don't add all the scopes of work, even a work truck. If your work truck goes down, how are you gonna pay for it, right? So you need it for the day. Each, don't cobrar at the Enterprise truck in North Portland, $150 a day, right? So you wanna account for all these things, okay? So then you have something like this, and the most important piece is this component right here. And $9,500 to do this grade, right? You still have to do hauling and seating. But what I want to bring across is your overhead and profit at, let's say it's 20%, right? You want to add this part right here to 0.20. Actually, you don't want to ever do that. So 1,900 is your overhead and profit. And then you take these two numbers and you got 11.4. So you got 11.4 for your price to knock it out. What I missed here is your labor, material, equipment, subcontracting costs. There's other ways of doing this for your piece. And let me show you what that would look like. Now, I'll skip all this for the sake of time. So I'm going to make another copy here. And this is the exact same one, okay? So here you're thinking, you know what, dude, it is 11.4, but you didn't include your cost for labor, material, equipment, subcontracting, labor, other costs. In that way, in order to come up to your unit cost, your unit each, you need to add a bunch of columns here. There's all kinds of formulas to do this, but here's one of the ways that a lot of guys do. So material, sub, equipment, subs, labor, M-E-S-L-O, mislo. Okay, so there's a couple ways of doing this, right? So you're saying it's going to cost for the scope of work. You know, it's going to take you for labor it's going to take you 1 day to knock this grade out, 55 cubic yards, right? So your labor costs are going to be, and then you have a unit cost. So to do this, you're going to do your labor, te va a dar un día. Let's say you pay yourself 75 bucks. So you say 75 or 75 times 8 hours. So let's see. You're at 600 bucks for the labor for the day. Okay. Your subs, you decided to grade this job. Okay. I'm going to wrap up this piece right here. Okay. Because I'm going to give 5 minutes to contact. So subs, let's say you want to sub out the sill fence and some other guy who's going to do the sill fence at $1,000. Equipment, you already know your equipment's going to be about 500 bucks for the day to rent it. Okay. Your material, let's say you got bio bags, a bunch of other stuff. Let's say you want to put 500 bucks in it. What you do is you take these numbers. You're going to take this, and this, and your other. Your others, a lot of folks don't add their permits cost. Usually it's between 3 and 5%. Good number to, you know, and then you got bonding, you got insurance. You got to throw these numbers in, guys. So let's just say the magic number is 10%. So 10% on that is 10. So to get to your unit costs, you're going to take this times your 0.0. This wrong here. I'll try this. This is what happens when you don't. 10%. Either way, I did it. Take unit costs. I'll just do it this way. So at 2,600 is what it's going to charge you. But the unit cost is a percent of that. 260 bucks. And your final cost is not accurate, but just kind of give me a sense. You take these two numbers and you add them to get to 2860. 2860, this is a rough example. If you were going to have to buy bio bags, hazard, equipment. Now, labor is not accurate, 600 bucks, right? You're going to need 2 guys out there, so you know it's 1,200 bucks. So you're already at 3,520. But the bottom line is you now have a breakdown for 55 cubic yards, for example, to do this. You're missing in here your material cost. 500 bucks isn't what it's going to cost to get rid of the dirt. You already know it's 10 bucks times 55 is $550 plus your 500 bio bags. You're already at 1,050. I'll go see, no? You see this number going up. What I wanted to demonstrate here is that on a spreadsheet, you have to use these formulas. You want to definitely break out your material. You want to break out your equipment, what it's going to cost you. Your equipment's off, right? Because you still have to rent that truck that we talked about earlier in case your truck goes down. So that's $650, right? You still got subs. You got the percentage in here that is going to keep going up because of your insurance costs, all that. This doesn't even include your overhead and profit. You want to go in here and add overhead and profit to that. So then you just do 25%. Let's say it's 25%, right? So you take this number here times this to get 1,072, and maybe your subtotal cost is going to be this plus this, and you're 5362, and that's your final quote and bid, right? But the bottom line is you included a 25% overhead and profit. So if anybody asks you what it was, you can always change that number to 20%, and that number is going to change. You see that? That's what I want to show you. Let's just keep it at 20 for now, and I'll open up to questions. So it's kind of a breakdown. I know it's a rough hack. Just on a spreadsheet, you want to do this. And with that, I'll open up questions, and I'm sure you guys have other questions. So let me open up the spreadsheet here. Okay, do we have any questions?
Feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions.
Yeah, unmute yourself. I know that was pretty fast, and I don't know if you guys could see that. So anybody? I'll start picking if
I got a question.
Salvador.
Hi everyone. My name is Salvador Castañeda, and my question to you is: wouldn't you typically have templates already created from previous jobs and just carry them forward when a new job comes through? You just really, the formulas are already there. You just punch in the numbers so that you're not taking the
Reinvent
time
the wheel.
to recreate the wheel, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. No, we have a section in Asana that we created, the teams created, the 2 estimators that we have on the team. We have a section, I don't know if you notice, operations, assets, all those. In one of them, in operations, we created one called templates. And we have templates there for grading. We have templates there for like roofing stuff that we've done. We have templates there for general contracting stuff. But the reality is that you can have numbers roughly already created, Salvador, but every situation is going to dictate different times, the environment, the time you're going to operate. In the case of our work, obviously the wages are going to differ between what you want to pay your guys, right? Between something in Central Oregon that's a private sector versus something that's Davis-Bacon on a federal job or Davis-Bacon on a school, right? So they're going to change, but you're right. Yeah, we have templates for grading. We have templates for some of the smaller construction we've done, and you want to create those. That's where you want to spend about 60, 80% of your time. We've spent quite a bit of time taking all our estimates and throw them in there. That way, when the team goes in, they can just grab them and go, and they can make some minor modifications. You know, instead of taking 2 weeks to do a bid on a takeoff, maybe you're taking 2 hours because you're looking at the different ways and numbers, right? You're looking at how much did Dave spend on that truck? Oh, it was 128. Okay, we'll round up to 130, right? I always throw 150 because of fuel, insurance, the $20 daily rate, right? Some of the guys won't include their pickup truck, right? Or some of these costs because they're like, well, I already have a pickup truck. Well, what happens if your pickup goes down? Walsh Construction, Molina's is going to expect you to show up on time, or you're going to incur liquidated damages. So there's certain stuff that you have to account for, that there's going to be no excuses when it's go time, right? But to your point, yeah, we have templates. We've easily put them in operations, and you want to make sure as your team scales, you want to throw that available for them and have and so that they can do that.
Gracias.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah. Anyone else?
yeah, I'd like to build on that question, David. This is
Okay.
Ozzy. Yeah. So what resources would you direct people to if they want to start building those kinds of templates? I mean, answering the questions like Davis-Bacon or getting different pricing in band versus abandoned. Do you have kind of go-to places, or is this just, you know, Google Maps and the
No.
telephone?
No, there's not. There's not. Let me share my screen real quick. And I know my time's coming to an end. I know LatinoBuilt and with Walsh, and we're doing this right now. This website right here, it's an association. I don't know if every estimator on this call is part of as a member. Pitching you that you could be a member, but this website has been not this website. Can you guys all see that? I joined these guys because just like Salvador, I didn't know how to put an estimate together. I didn't want to outsource it. There are companies that pitch me every single day. Hey, we'll do a takeoff for you. But guys, I tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, if you got to sub it out, maybe you do that once or twice, but don't get in the habit of it because you don't understand the science and art behind what goes into that number and do it. So these guys are really good. You become a member, like $200 something. What I love about these guys, and I don't have one handy because my guys have it in their car at home, is they send you a magazine. And in that magazine, they have resources. This one, the Estimating Today magazine. And you get this out here. Let's look at the one for right now. What month are we? 2020? Check the PDF. Let's see if we can look at this. You guys see that? Okay, this is the one that was on my little coffee table here. But they have great articles in here, different ways of doing the takeoff, and real good information on understanding drawings. So you guys got to use the resources available in your industry. If you're in the civil industry, there's a civil trade group for that. If you're in, let's say you're just an estimator, you know, the software that you use is Procore, whoever it is that you use, Quick Eye, whatever software you use to do takeoffs, those guys will come in handy. I'm looking for an article. Oh, like a takeoff and pricing sheet, right? This is just a pitch of a software. This is what they're using. I was hoping I could open up a spread, one of the spreadsheets that they sent off. This is not it. There's another one. But anyways, in this magazine is really cool takeoffs, really cool spreadsheets. It's not one in here, but it might be in the other one. Oops. If you look at the March one, let's see if the March one has one. You look at this and it's a different way of looking at a takeoff. Maybe it's this one. I know I'm going really fast. I don't want to take over Afton's time. I'm gonna get cut off here. It'll cut me off. Right here. I want to go too fast. I passed it. Okay. This is a takeoff on a building. And this is from a general contractor perspective, but it's kind of like you'll kind of get a sense of it. So 50 square feet, what they're charging per square foot on general requirements, like the trailers. This is high level, right? But this is how they do it. See how right here they have construction contingency at a high level? They're charging you a contingency fee. They're charging general conditions for them to manage the project. They're charging you an insurance, and they have a contractor's fee. All of that comes up to right down here. They have a breakdown too of how they actually got to that. Your openings, your doors, all of that. So there's different ways. I'm gonna stop sharing. Ozzy, different tools and resources out there. If you're in the arborist business, find out which arborist organization is in your community, how they got to the science and art for their takeoffs. If you're in the drywall industry, there's that. There's the American Society of Professional Estimators. I know for LatinoBuilt, I have mentored about half a dozen guys that have come through, men and women, that Dulce and Liana have sent my way, and we've done calls over the phone. The big one is you understanding your side of the house, your business, and understanding those ancillary costs, those others. I threw it in there, others, right? Like your permits, your insurance, those things will eat you alive, because if you're bidding, como dice en español, estás jalando para otro, you're just working for someone else. The end goal of your business is to survive and to be of use to Molina's and to Walsh and all the other big general contractors is that you stay in business, you stay alive. We need you to stay alive. And it's not hard for you to tell that to us and be like, hey, you know what? This insurance is really high, or my workers' comp is really high, or whatever. Throw those costs in there. You have to. We want you to survive and make it to the next project. So use the resources out there. ASPE is just one of them, but there's so many others. And you want to definitely start working on your spreadsheet so that you can kind of close the gap on what you bid and get them out faster. I don't know if Ozzy, if that answered your question.
David, I'm going to share my screen. There's a couple of the terms that you guys talked about. I mean, we're getting real basic here, I'd like you to maybe identify a couple things that people often miss in their bids. I mean, there's people that you've mentored so far with estimating. I'm going to share my screen and have you, there we go, share. Send. Talk about common things that you've seen people missing here with materials, labor, equipment, subcontractors, and overhead cost and profit.
So materials, I haven't seen so many people that have missed this, but I'm going to speak from experience for myself. I won't throw anybody under the bus. For materials, we have totally missed how many trees were there at the job site and escalation. So we were on a job a couple years ago, and we had so let me break it up, right? We're all like contractors here. Well, let's just say, for example, you're bidding on a job to a general, or you're the general and you need sub prices. I'll tell you this experience. We came in and our subcontractor came in and says, we're going to do this job for $50,000. We're going to take care of all the trees. Okay. That includes the equipment. Yep. That includes my equipment. The labor, yep, that includes all my labor. And you're gonna market, you're gonna come in, you're gonna spend 10 grand, Dave, for disposal of the material. Okay. So we're now at $65,000. Your overhead and profit, you're gonna come in. We threw ours, we're super small, like 12% or whatever it was. We're only gonna net like 7 or 9 grand on that job. And then the rest of it was gonna be ancillary costs, other costs. What I have seen on that one, and that one was a really bad deal, because the materials, we underestimated the materials. There was more material there than there was to perform the job. Okay. Labor, because you underestimated the materials and how long it would take, you underestimated your labor. You're going to be there longer than just 6 weeks. We're going to be there 3 months. So now your labor just extended. That's your labor. Equipment costs can rapidly go higher too, because you're renting. In my case, it was his equipment. But if we had a rent, that just extended it 3 months instead of 6 weeks. On a really small little kind of experience, like my calls that I've had with some of the LatinoBuilt members, they don't underestimate the material so much. They know what it costs for the drywall. What they underestimate is the labor. For example, they'll say that they'll go out there and do the walls, do the drywall, and labor, they're going to knock it out in a week, right? But what they didn't do in the labor, they didn't include their estimating costs, right? It's not bad to include your estimating costs. I don't know what your cost is, right? Everybody's cost here is valued different, right? Some of us are going to be saying, you know what, we're going to charge $100 for the estimate, meaning for that day, for that half day that we worked on the estimate for that particular job, the drywall, the wife or the husband, whoever did it, they don't include that estimate cost, $100, $150. They don't include anything, zero. So basically, you're kind of, how is that person in the office getting paid if you do win the work? Okay, so labor. The labor also, they underestimate how much labor is going to take to do the drywall. Maybe it's not just them and their brother. Maybe they need a fourth guy or third and fourth guy for half a day, right? The labor sometimes, if you're not very careful in these bids, especially if they're on Davis-Bacon, they will throw you under because they tell you you need to pay your guys $42 an hour, and you're wanting to pay your guys $18 an hour. It's not going to work. So you got to look at the specs to make sure that the labor is accurate. The other part about labor is they're thinking, oh, it's just labor for the 30, $40 an hour. You have to include the burden rate. And the burden rate is in between, 18, 25% on top of that, just for the support and the fees and the tax, everything that goes involved with that one guy for labor. You have to include yourself. You have to pay yourself. Equipment is another one that people will miss a lot. Instead of, if this thing went from 5 days and it's now rapidly 2 weeks, then what that costs them. The other thing about equipment is, let's say it's your pickup truck and your saws and your impact and everything like that. Well, then, so are you basically saying that your truck is not a value? A lot of guys, and I'm guilty of this too, we don't include our pickup trucks in there. We started to include our pickup trucks about 2 years ago, because if our pickup truck goes down, well, then how are you going to support that project? Not only your pickup truck, your fuel costs. If that diesel truck is running for 8 hours for 5 days, it's stop and go picking up tools and equipment, well, that's 150 times 5, right? So you have to include plus fuel for that equipment to go, plus the saw and the impact. Let's say it's each put a price tag, $8 a day, right? For your saw and your impact. Why? Because it's wear and tear. You have to replace your equipment. That's a big one. Subcontractors. This one is an interesting one. I've had experience. I've gone under with subcontractors. This one is really from the point of the GC role. If you have subs, in our case, we'll pay the dollar amount, whatever it is, to make sure they stay afloat and to stay alive, because we need them to stay on the project. Of a perspective of all of us bidding to a general contractor, you have to include all your costs into that project. So your material, labor, equipment, sub, overhead is in your price to the general. At a high level, I've had jobs where we bid it out to subcontractors, and we're always very cognizant about, hey, did you include your permit in your price? We had a job here recently. The HVAC said, hey, we're only going to max $1,000 on this HVAC, right? We're the GC on the job, 1,000, which means that when I put it to the owner and the architecture firm, I said, listen, this permit of $1,000, it's going to be higher, ma'am. And it's going to be possibly $2,000, 2,200, whatever it is. So just be aware that you're going to get a dollar amount price from us, a quote, as the GC to you, because my subcontractor is maxing it at 1,000. And there's no way you can tell a subcontractor, hey, you know what? The HVAC permit mechanical was 2,200. You're out of pocket $1,200. You can't do that, right? So you have to look through it very carefully. From subcontractors' perspective, they're going to miss something. Most of the time, they don't know. But as a GC, it's our responsibility to grab that dollar amount, push it right up to the owner, and say, hey, be advised that you're going to see a higher cost. The overhead cost and profit, Leanna, I think this is a big one for people. People are, I think, underestimating this number. I hear a lot from people doing it between the 12 and 15%. This one is more of a science and an art. And until you get your balance sheet and your profit and loss and your cost codes and everything into your QuickBooks, you won't really know what your true general overhead costs are, because everybody's number is different. Some people are really underestimating this number and saying it's 12%, 9%. I've seen guys come in and say, oh, I'm going to mark it up 10%. I'm going to break this thing down even further. There's $2 amounts that go into this overhead cost and profit. If you guys remember the spreadsheet, I did OH $P. That's overhead and profit. So a general rule is that the overhead is your office, your admin, everything it took to support this job while you're doing this job. support at home, right? Your home expenses, your overhead, your general overhead, your insurance, all those, right? Your profit is separate. That's what you intend to make a profit. So if you, let's just say example, you say it's 20% overhead and profit. That's, let's say it's, 10% overhead, 10% profit, then stick to that. You know, you're going to make on a $100,000 job, overhead and profit, 20 grand. You didn't really make 20 grand. Overhead is 10 grand that went to the office and everything to support the project, your admin, your clerk, everything else, your billing, invoicing, and 10% is what you invest in your company. If at the end of the project, you come out with your balance sheet and profit and loss, you've entered it all your costs, and you actually made 25 grand, well, then you actually didn't make 10,000 profit. You actually made 15,000 profit, right? Because some of those line items, you made more money. So I don't know if that helped, Lana.
That's a big help.
Okay.
Thank you, David. I'm going to actually transition. So if anybody has any more questions, please hold them until the end. We'll open back up for questions again. But for now, we are going to move right on over to Afton Walsh from Walsh Construction to talk more on the bidding process.
Thanks, Leanna. Here, I'll share my screen. I can figure out how to do it. Oh, I think you need to allow me to share.
Nope, you're.
Oh, there we go. Yep, I got it. Sorry. Okay. There we go. Okay, can you see my PowerPoint or my PDF? One thing I just want to add on the onto David's, that was lots of really useful information. I think my biggest thing I would want to leave people with on the estimating is remember to do the gut check. Always remember to say, does it make sense? Does it make sense that my 3 trees are $100,000, but my 30 slightly smaller trees are only 10,000? Just always, anything you put together, don't forget to put the sort of gut check, like, does this make sense? I did a job similar to this and it's half the price. Does that sound right? I think that's gotten me out of a lot of pickles where I go and I see a cell that didn't copy over, or I used a wrong rate or something like that. So what I want to talk about is, before you ever open a single spreadsheet, where do you start? What are the things you need to do to get ready so that your bid can be as most accurate? There've been, questions that I think will relate and I'll cover in this section. So kind of the things I'm going to cover are, where do you first find bids? What is the first step? What are all the documents you need to review and look at?
Sorry, not to interrupt you, but you're not on a presentation. Looks like you're on an email from our end. So
really? Oh, geez. Thank you for letting me see. It says I'm sharing. Oh, good. Hope it was an okay email. Sorry, hold on. Let me new share screen 2. Okay, let's try this. Did that work? Do you see a PDF?
Yes, that's it.
That says Walsh Construction. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to cover where to find bids, kind of the first step. What are all the things you need to review and the documents you need to collect before you can even start? What is a bid package? You'll often see that referenced. Bid formatting. What is kind of the best practices of what your bid should look like? And then clarifications and exclusions, which I think are the most important part of any bid. You can never over communicate, basically. So bid notices. Most general contractors, obviously I have my perspective, but I know there's some other GCs on this call and they can probably say, but I bet everyone's kind of similar. We do print advertising in places like the DJC. We post on Builders Exchange, Washington, for both Oregon and Washington projects, actually. Contractor Plan Center, we post bids, and then on our websites. So I just, if you go to the Hoffman website, for example, I just threw one on here, they have a whole page that's projects bidding. If you go to, our Walsh website, we have up here in the corner a subcontractor tab that goes to bid room, and then it will list which of our jobs are bidding right now. So pretty much every contractor will have some sort of bid website notification area. But really the easiest and the best is to make sure that you're on general contractors' email lists and in their bid lists, because they'll send you emails. And typically it's a pre-qualification form, and every contractor is going to be a little bit different, or you just email a project manager or someone that you know and say, hey, get me on your bid list, and make sure they know exactly what type of work you want and what type of work you do. If you do painting or interior and exterior, whatever specific type of painting, that way they send you the right type of bids and you don't just get a bunch that aren't relevant. And I know how we do it is then we send out all of our bid notification through our bidder software. And I would imagine Ozzy could probably enlighten us what they do, but ours is I square foot. And so you'll actually get an email with all the bid documents and saying, hey, are you interested in this bid? And it makes it easier so that you don't necessarily have to always be checking all of these different websites, but that they'll come directly into your email. And you can decide if you want to pursue it or not. So reviewing the bid documents. This is really before you open a single spreadsheet, you want to know, what are you bidding? What are you getting yourself signed up for? Is it something that you even want to look at? So I would say the last thing you should open are the plans and the specifications. The first thing you should look at are what scopes are bidding. Make sure a lot of general contractors will, first they'll bid the MEP, then they'll bid like different scopes later on. So you don't want to waste your time if your scope is one that's maybe already bid. You want to make sure it's available. Second is look at the construction schedule. Those will usually be attached in all the bid documents. And if it's in a month or 8 months, that'll have an impact on, do you have the crews available? Do you have the people? Is that a hole in your schedule that you're looking for? So make sure you really understand when the work is anticipated to occur. Someone brought up in the questions and comments about, I think, weather. So if you're a roofer and the job is supposed to roof in December, or the job is going to roof in June, that impacts how you're going to bid that job and how you're going to look at it. Because weather can be a big, can impact a lot of scopes, especially on the exterior. Workforce training and hiring. If anyone's working in the city of Portland, there are workforce training and hiring requirements on some jobs at some contract levels. Bonding requirements, do you need a bond? Are there any sustainability or green requirements? And then the wage rate. So is it Davis-Bacon, Boley commercial prevailing? Confirm the exact wage determination and exactly which one. Most contractors should post that with all of their bid documents so you can go exactly to your trade. And as David mentioned, that can really get you caught up if you have assumed half the wage rates that that you need to. And then one that I missed on here, but I thought of as I was getting ready for this, is go to the site or pull it up on Google Maps. If it's in downtown Portland, or if it's in a huge 10-acre lot in Hillsborough, makes a difference. Are you going to have to pay for parking of your crews? How are you going to handle and maneuver your materials? So all those kind of things to kind of understand the logistics of the job will all then go into what are the things you need to cover in your estimate. So it's important to understand all those factors before you even open a single drawing and do any takeoffs. Bid packages, some GCs use them and some don't. I would say even at Walsh, where half our project managers do and half of them don't, but they can be a really great resource. I have an example I'll show after I kind of run through these, but basically it's where the GC goes through the scope and says, these are all the specific things I want you to include. And it can be a really good roadmap to make sure that you have included what they'd like you to include. And it also gives you a little bit of, oh, they said, all of the toilet accessories. Oh, I didn't see those. I better go back and look at my estimate and make sure I picked up all those toilet accessories. And then you can mark up those documents. And I think one thing I wish that subcontractors did more and really shouldn't be afraid to do is call the project manager or call the point of contact on that bid. If you have any questions, if you're confused on the scope at all, give them a call, shoot them an email, and they can give you clarification. So what makes a good bid? I would say make sure that you include all of the required forms that are asked of you. Oftentimes they'll ask you to fill out a little check sheet that says, yes, I included the Davis-Bacon prevailing wages. And really what it just does is it provides clarity, and it makes sure that you cover all the things you're supposed to, and the contractor, when they're reviewing your bid, can say, oh yeah, this is a really complete bid. And they'll make sure to consider it really thoroughly. List the drawing date that you used. Sometimes there might be different versions of drawings that are out there. So say I used, the drawings that were dated on July 20th. That's the set that mine proposal is based on. Include your quantities in the actual bid when you send it to the contractor. I'll show you some examples in a second. That just verifies that when a contractor is reviewing it and they know you should have had 10 trees and you list 3 trees, they're gonna give you a call and say, hey, I think you missed a couple trees, and kind of help you out, because contractors want you to be successful. We all want your bids to be thorough and complete. No one wants to catch you. That's not the point. Clearly state your wage rate, list the contact. If a contractor has questions, who do they call to get those answered? And then detailed exclusions and clarifications. So I think in the short amount of time, I just want to jump to some good examples and bad examples. So this is an actual bid. I've blanked the name out on the bad example. I don't think it's fair to air dirty laundry, but here's a bid that I received for painting. That's it. That's all I got. That is not a good example. There are no clarifications, exclusions. There's no quantities. There's a little bit of breakdown. I don't know what wage rate they used. I know the job, that's about it. So here's a better example. We use some bid forms. So here they've included a bid form. I did blank out the name here, but this is steel. So they completed my bid form. They signed it. So that's great. Here was another little check sheet that I asked them to fill out. They did all that. I had a unit price worksheet that I had included. They completed it. They listed the CAT tax. They just were very specific and filled out the forms that we had included with the bid documents. Here was a unit price worksheet that we had included in our bid documents, and they completed that. And then here's their actual bid. So they list, all the quantities. These are all the assumptions that they made. They broke it out by kind of big areas, which is all very helpful. And then there's their bottom line. And then here are exclusions. So they clearly tell me what they didn't, they don't have barricades and traffic control. They don't have grouting. They don't have engineering. I think it's really important that, clarifications are and exclusions specifically are very powerful. I think I have just a few more minutes. I want to go to one that's very long, but it can also be really simple. So here's a sub who has a great bid, and it's still simple. It's a single piece. It's a single sheet of paper. So they've listed everything they have included. They've broken out some, it's not itemized in much detail, but a little bit. And then they have clear clarifications and very clear exclusions. So I think you can see here what they said, the bid date. They gave me, who to call, who to contact, that they're certified firm. All that stuff's really, really important to kind of have a good professional and thorough bid. So, oops, I will stop sharing and I will see questions.
Yes, we have a little time for questions. So if anybody has a really big burning question, please unmute yourself and ask now.
Eric.
Hey, I got a quick question. I put my proposal together, like you said, it has exclusions and clarifications. On the last line of my clarifications, I have a line that says, this proposal shall be made part of the contract agreement. what if in my clarifications that I state, I install electrical conduit, but I don't do backfill and trenching. And then I miss that in the contract docs that they want me to do the they want a number for backfill. And how does that play out?
So, I mean, I think that is bad form of a contractor. If you've cleared on your proposal, they accepted you and they told you that you are the successful bidder, and they then give you a contract that is different than what you told them to do, that you were going to do. I mean, that's bad form, and that's I think borderline unethical. But I do think so you need to read your contracts really closely, and you need to make sure that when you do read the final contract that they haven't sometimes inadvertently thrown something in there. But if your proposal didn't clearly say that you excluded backfilling and trenching, then it can be, so just make sure you're clear on that. That would be my thought.
Anybody else have a live question?
I will add though, there's some proposals that have a lot of like contract-like terms, like, the payment terms or things like that. And those typically will be overridden in a contract, in the actual contract, because we're going to ask you to meet some of our, the insurance requirements and, payment terms and things that are actually driven by our owner prime contracts that everyone, all subcontractors, had to adhere to. So if there's those types of terms, oftentimes, we won't be able to necessarily uphold all of those kind of things.
Well, on that note, I know that there's still tons of questions I can imagine. Please feel free to reach out to LatinoBuilt and we can connect you further and to answer additional questions. It's probably best just for you to send an email to info at latinobuilt.org. From there, thank you so much to Afton and David. This has been a lot, and we packed in a lot of information in a short period of time, and we understand that, and we really appreciate you. I am just going to say a big thank you. If you don't follow us, please start to, and we will see you again in the next one. Thank you so much, everyone.